Have you ever seen a bit of software and thought, man, that looks so cool? So cool, in fact, I think I actually want to try it out. And then you spend hours in limbo trying to install it only to encounter critical errors and to not even have the thing working in the end. Kind of very specific in a deep cut. Yeah, I've been there too, buddy. Been there a lot actually, which is precisely why I made this video, as well as a fantastic guide over at our school community. So if you're ready to start generating beautiful artwork, or even just to attain an insane level of quality in your images, all for just a whopping 11 minutes of your life. The Krita AI installer is kind of a whole gambit of a lot of things, especially if you're starting at net zero. Nothing installed on a computer, perfectly fresh, which honestly, pretty good place to be. But you're gonna need Krita, and you're gonna need the plugin for it, Krita AI, which also means you have to download and install Krita, but also go through the gambit of how the hell do you add a plugin to Krita AI. It's super easy and really not gonna take you any time. 90% of the things you need to get done can be wrapped up within like 3 minutes. Then 20% is installing all of the models and things, which should take a little bit more time, which is why I would advise doing this probably right before you go to bed and leave it installing overnight. But I digress. Let's go. And in the description down below, it will take you either to our school page or our school community, which looks like this, how you join and how you find the course section. Essentially, it's just an easy place for me to kind of consolidate everything and make it kind of a really streamlined guide. Or you can just go to the description and follow Krita's actual install guide, but it doesn't cover some things that will definitely kneecap you moving forward. For example, Windows having a file name limit, which will impede you exponentially when you're progressing with the software. And then the other thing, just a quality of life thing, which is pinning ComfyUI. So if you are going to use that guide, then just make sure you do those two things. Pin your ComfyUI folder. I digress. Let's get into it. So if you're following along on our school course, I streamlined it and gave you everything that you essentially need. Here's a direct link to install the Krita software, which is perfect. You just download the software, install it, hit go. You guys are seeing it in the background outside of a little prompt that comes up that you guys can't see. And you're just clicking through things, accepting the program, and it should be installed in a few seconds. Totally not that bad. It's probably already done behind me. Great. Now, the plugin, you're actually not going to want to unzip at all. Just leave it as is. Then, after you've run Krita, which will probably take a few seconds because it kind of takes a long time to boot up, but then it won't take any longer after that. Just kind of getting things situated. Yeah. But before we continue, and this is actually pretty huge, this is something that a lot of people will basically just miss and they'll have to correct way down the line or not even know what the problem is. Essentially, a lot of times Windows has what's called a path limit for file names. Now, when you're dealing with all the things we're going to get into, which is models and LoRa's and all these things, they have really long file names. And the last thing you want is to download this fun thing that's going to exponentially improve your art, only to see a bunch of errors. So fix it right now. It's not that hard at all. Simply put, hit the Windows key, Windows PowerCell. If you go over here, we want to hit Run as Administrator. It will boot up. You're going to have to hit Yes. Easy breezy. And now you have your console open. Now the next step is just to copy this code and put it in there, hit go, and you'll be good to go. Now in 4, it is the entire path, the entire name. I tried to separate it so that it's all that. Copy that, go back to this, go here, paste that code in there, hit go, and that's it. Just 2 things, really easy, post, done. You'll never have to worry about this problem happening in the future. And again, please, you'll troubleshoot forever not realizing this is the actual problem that you're dealing with. Now that we have Krita installed, we have the plugin downloaded, we need to install the plugin into Krita, which is really easy. So simply open up Krita AI, load up any project and go to Tools, go to Script, and go to Import plugin from File. Now a window will pop up and you need to click the file that is still zipped. If you unzip it, it won't appear. You need to have it zipped. Which is weird. Usually we do that. Anyways, alas, you hit install, it will run it, it'll be done, and then you need to close Krita to actually have it install. You want to close Krita, load it back up. You're going to want to go to the settings tab right here, and then you're going to want to go down to Docker, and then you're going to want to select AI image generation. Boom. So you'll see this window right here that says AI image generation right here. You guys can see some of the stuff I've been trying to show with the cool posts on school. I digress. Congratulations, we have the software technically applied, but we don't have any capacity to run it because we don't have the engine that's actually running it. We just kind of have the skeleton frame right now. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to that new window that just popped up. You're going to want to click the configuration menu, the cog, boom, and it should auto open to the connect tab. Now, this is where there are 3 options that you can run when it comes to this software. There's option 1, which is actually paying another computer to run it for you. This is amazing, and actually the deal for the credits are extremely well. In fact, me, take it away to talk more about this. Thanks, me. Kind of weird. There's really only 2 options. Running it locally on your PC, which requires a pretty hefty or decent GPU and a decent amount of memory in that GPU, or this method, which I actually feel like is a really good deal. And no, there's no affiliations with me and Krita, anything like that. Just think it's a really good piece of software. This essentially allows you to leverage this software at any place in the world so long as you have an internet connection, because you're pinging to another server that's doing the rendering for you. Now, this does mean you are going to have to buy tokens, but the cost to value on these tokens are kind of insane. Usually they're wildly overpriced, but for this one, it's pretty reasonable. On screen, you guys are seeing the money conversions for some of the dominant dollars in the world, but for $10 US, you can get around 5,000 tokens, which is pretty good. But for 30, you can get 15K tokens, which is pretty crazy. Now you might be saying, well, what does that really mean? Essentially, those 15K tokens or $30 worth of tokens gets you around 3,000 images at a really high resolution of 1020 by 1020. The reason why this is so good, as a point of reference, back when I was getting into AI art generation and using this program in sets of 10, like outputting tons and tons of overkill images, because I have the GPU, might as well use it, I only ever breached like 900 within like a month and a half. So if we were doing some easy math here, if you drop around $60 in here, which is I think a reasonable price for a program that is all free, by the way, and you get access to the open source community, which is also insane. I digress, more on that later. If you drop $60 into tokens, that's a pretty good amount, and I don't think you'll have to worry about it for like almost a year and a half or some change. Again, it depends on how much you're outputting, but even if you're doing what I was doing, which is outputting an absurd amount, it's still a really good deal. And this also allows you to leverage faster render times, depending on internet speed, all that, and also access to the maximum amount of power so long as you have an internet connection and a piece of software that can run this, i.e. a laptop or a MacBook. And if it is $60 for an obscene amount of tokens or $2,000 for a really good GPU, I think it's an even better deal, honestly, unless you're planning on using that GPU or PC for other things such as work, gaming, whatever it might be. But assuming you want to actually run this on your software, which actually most people can use it because there's various efficiency gains you can use on a low-level GPU that has a decent amount of memory, then let's do that. Alas, mean the past, take it back? I don't know how we'd phrase this. Yeah. Hi, we're back. How are you? The second option is the one that I would suggest and is the easiest, and the third option is strictly for people who already have ComfyUI installed. But funnily enough, I find that this program, ComfyUI, runs better with the Krita install, but could just be hearsay, alas. The main thing that 90% of people are going to want, even if they have ComfyUI installed, because it's just a fresh slate, it's fantastic, and it's really, really easy, is the middle one. There's stuff that you're going to be able to see that you have to manually install. Like this is required to even run ComfyUI. But there's all these other things that you might not know what they mean, especially if you're brand new to this. So there's things like models, LoRa's, checkpoints, vase. Don't get overwhelmed. You're okay. Again, at any point, you can just come back to this thing and say, oh, I didn't have that installed. And just click a tab, hit install, wait a couple seconds, and it will auto do it. There's no worry here. There's no area in which you can fail. You can always come back and say, oh, that wasn't installed. I actually may want to dabble with that now, and click it. But if you're following this guide, I would highly advise the ones that I chose. And frankly, if you have the space, I wouldn't be opposed to downloading everything. Depends on how much you're going to want out of the software. But the things that I find I get the most value is the XL models, but the 1.5 models that you're seeing there as well also have some utility for lower end systems because they cost less to run. But there's a lot of stuff that you can do to get more out of it. And I think I've never met a single person that hasn't wanted those things. And running the image generation on another server for like a token that's like a couple cents is really valuable. And I think I'd weigh that more than getting a $2,000 graphics card, which I probably mentioned. So I will come clean about something. Technically installing it does happen in like 11 minutes, but installing all of these models, these are essentially the brain or like the artists that you're essentially downloading. They're pretty big files and it kind of depends on your internet speed. So this process could take anywhere from like 30 minutes, but more likely to be an hour or an hour and a half. Considering we're tapping into like hundreds of years of skill to emulate in seconds, I think it's a pretty good trade. That's why I would highly suggest doing this at night, actually. Right before you go to bed, hit install. When you wake up, it'll all be good. Even if you have a really, really low internet connection, it should be good and it should run. I've installed this on 3 computers and it's never done me wrong. I've never got any error code, especially if we follow the exact course that I'm showing you right here. Okay, so hopefully a few hours passed, everything is fully installed, everything is green light, and you're good. Now, it is important to note this is running ComfyUI, which is like a server-based thing. So when you hit run Krita will pop up and it will take a few minutes for it to connect to the server. So don't be shocked if you're like, oh, did something go wrong in the install? And just give it a minute and it will basically pop up. It doesn't do it visually, but eventually it will pop up this window. Before you get too ahead of yourself, we have to patch a critical flaw again with this. One of the things that you're going to eventually want to do a lot is install various models, LoRa's, and things like that. And I'll explain why you want to do that in the future, but not technically, think of it as a way to like engage with like a person who has years and years of experience in pencil drawing or digital design or text or a specific type of like clothing or style. These are essentially the brains that we're going to be inhabiting and taking. So it's really important to know where we're going to put those brains. So this is why it's really important that you do this. Essentially, when you have that window, you see that it's going to show you where the file path for where server is basically installed, which is the thing that's running the AI software in the background. You're going to want to make sure you know where that is and find it within your file. So just follow that path, and essentially what you're going to want to pin is ComfyUI. So this is actually the program that's running everything, and this is where you're going to be putting your control nets, which is labeled there in the files, and your LoRa's. This is super important because you're going to want to do this. So you're going to want to be able to access this really easily. That's why you're going to want to pin this to your quick access, which is your sidebar on your files, or pin it to your actual desktop if you're that kind of person. I personally like it on the side so I can quickly click it and it's just ComfyUI and bang. But yes, ComfyUI is essentially the like mega mind that's running the AI art and where we're going to be installing all these control nets. So pin it, track it, make sure you know where it is. Good. All right, now we essentially have everything installed and done. Huzzah! But there's a lot of optimization things that we definitely want to kind of address. So this is things with like based on your computer's hardware and all of these variables, which is why I'm going to let it, me in editing land, take it away. So as you guys can see, there's quite a lot of tabs. By the way, if you ever seen the interface change, it's because there's various updates and things like that slightly change, but things largely are in the same place, alas. Something I didn't point out, by the way, is how important picking the right GPU is. So for me, I have an NVIDIA GPU, so of course we'll pick that. Alas, we also have stuff like styles, which I'll get into probably in a couple seconds here and ramble at you about that. Many of the tabs are just preferences, but there is one thing here that will absolutely ruin you. And it's not what you might think. It's actually the NSFW filtering tab, which is supposed to filter out explicit content. The issue with this is that oftentimes it doesn't tell you how it's doing that. So it will just blur the entire image. You'll think something is broken on your end of install because you put this to strict or whatever. If you do want to kind of limit severely the level of gratuitous images, etc., you can just put in your negative prompt, NSFW, nudity, anything that's like a trigger word that would represent that. And it'll do wonders for you as far as avoiding that. But if you use this feature, it will just blur the whole image and it won't tell you why it's doing that. You don't know if you accidentally turn this on, that's what's causing you so much grief. Because if it sees it like I think too much skin, it basically attributes that to being like, oh, that must be perverted and etc. So just be careful with that. As far as the interface tab, if you want to just copy everything I have here, that'd be great. We're going to be kind of using a lot of this. There's just various things, what format you want. PNG, it usually provides a really good image quality, but if you don't want to use that, you can just use JPEG and it's a lot smaller of a file size. So if you're really fighting for that storage space, then I got you. As far as performance, which is the thing that you mainly want to focus all your attention on right now, this is just your active history size. So this is the amount of images that are basically being like loaded into your memory. And this is the amount of storage you can actually store those things in. So I would just go with this. It provides like a lot, but if you wanted even more than this, you absolutely could. This feature, however, I would like to point out that I think it's best that you put this on custom and kind of play it by ear. The reason why is because if I put this on something that's like more in my range, which is 6 to 12, which is what most people are going to be at, it doesn't let me tap into these features. And these features are really, really nice, especially if you know how to use them properly. So I'd go to custom. And Krita added this lovely feature, which tells you exactly how much memory you have in your GPU, which is fantastic. So just click the one that's relevant to the range that you have for your GPU. Fantastic. You don't have to mess around with Task Manager and try to find your memory limit and stuff like that. Fantastic. So set that for whatever the number is, or just go with custom, like I said, and kind of get a gauge for it that way. But what about that template tab? To that point, there are a lot of tabs within this configuration menu. There's stuff like templates, which are so crucial for getting the maximum amount out of all of this, but they have to do with models and LoRa's. And I don't want to bog down this video with that. I have a whole other separate video that's going to come down the pipeline that's in regards to that, but not before I give you a lay of the land of whatever the hell this program is I'm going to try to save you as much time as possible by telling you what tools are absolutely worth making shortcuts for on your keyboard. It's so useful, and it gives me an excuse to talk about the most used tools within this software. And it allows me to kind of segue into what this whole software looks like, what things do, where things are located, and what things you're going to be using a ton in a normal person's workflow when it comes to making AI art. So that's kind of the mantra of the next video. And then the video after that will be digging into like lures and whatnot, but you should be able to generate some fun things just with what you have right now using the base models itself. Now, it would be so cool if people posted in our school community under the lounge section, or better yet, this section. This one, because I would love to see people's first AI rendered image, because the whole premise of this community is to basically iterate and become better and better and better. So to have your first image calcified, as scuffed as it might be, would be such a fantastic thing, I think, especially if you're dedicated to wanting to do this more, because it is extremely fun. It is more fun if you have a baseline understanding of things, hence why I'm making this weird mega AI Krita install entry-level point thing. I'm also making this other thing that essentially it's just this thing I was working on for like 3 or 4 months for just me, but it's essentially a massive toolkit type thing that has representations for all of the most impactful keywords, followed by an actual visual element or a representation of them. I also have this framework that I kind of live by to get the best results possible called QUIP. Let me know if you actually know that acronym. And then I also just wanted to double stack the amount of value I'm providing with that weird little resource or course with 95 control nets in regards to line art for complex composition. Bunch of words there. I'll explain them in the future of why I think they're good. All of that is for the staggering price of $40. 4 months of my life, not bad. But if it is, and you're interested in some of the other stuff I make, that's what's going to be on the docket as well. But odds are we're going to cover that on this channel eventually. It just might be in 3 to 4 months eventually. Thank you kindly for your time, and goodbye for now, my friends.